And we are live. What's good, Josh? Your man, Dale Saint. Welcome. I really want to know podcast, man. What's happening out there, bro? How y'all feeling? Just checking everything, make sure everything's good. Sounds like it's good. Just checking out the audio. The audio looks like it's all right. I know I've been gone for a while, guys. For those of you who follow me on Instagram and all that stuff, you know what's going on. Doing better. Still struggling with those numbers, man. Trying to get those numbers down. They're trending down, but they're not where they need to be. But they're low enough, I think, to where I can do something like this. I don't think my blood pressure is going to go too up on this subject, but we definitely need to talk about it, man. And the deal is, man, here's the question, bro. Are the U.S. regional banks in America in trouble? I think they are. Let's get into it. Are live. What's good, y'all? Welcome to I Really Want to Know podcast, y'all. Get some indeed, man. So I hope you guys are well. Happy Friday. It's the weekend, baby. It's the weekend. Happy Friday. I hope you guys are doing all right. Like I said, my numbers are getting better, guys. I'm doing okay, but I am nowhere near out of the woods. But I mean, like I said, my numbers have improved, and I want to do something. I'm getting tired. I'm getting anxious. I want to do something, so I'm here. Brother Dino Dinosaur's in the building. What's good, fam? Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for keeping up with me, man. And I really appreciate your words, man. Thank you so much. And to everyone else out there who's been sending me well wishes and, you know, trying to figure out what's going on. Like, I appreciate you, man. I really do. We got so much to catch up on. While I was down, so to speak, it's like, man, it was so much I wanted to catch up on. Couldn't. It was so much going on that I wanted to talk about. And we're gonna talk about it. I saved everything. Like the Stephen Knight and Abba preach, Abba thing. I was looking at that like, bro, we're gonna talk about that at some point. What's going on with the red pill and mainstream media? Like, mainstream media is really asking questions about what is the red pill. They're coming down the rabbit hole. The red pill is bringing them there. They're getting into the Mano swamp, like the manosphere. They're starting to do research and they're figuring out what MRA was all about, men's rights activists back in the day. They're even going back to the movie Red Pill, which is a great documentary. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I'm pretty sure most people who watch me have seen that documentary. But I told you guys, man, it's going to go mainstream. And there's so many people, so many women, so many platforms talking about it. And we're going to get into that too. I'm going to go pretty much hardcore. Like back in the day when I first started, you're going to see me just popping up all the time talking about these different things because I want to catch up on all those different topics that caught my eye over the past, 3 or 4 weeks as I've been just kind of chilling and allowing my body to do what it do and correct this issue with high blood pressure. So, and of course, we're going to also continue to talk about that as well. I tell everyone, man, especially if you're older, but it doesn't matter what your age, really, get your blood pressure checked. There's so many people who don't go to the doctor. They don't have proper medical coverage. I get that, but you can get your blood pressure checked just to make sure you're okay. They don't call it the silent killer for nothing. So let's get into this thing, man. We're going to definitely talk about what's going on with the banking world. So this is a CNBC article. This was published today at 8:45 a.m. This will be linked. I haven't linked it yet, but it will be linked in the description below. If you guys want to check it out, I'll make sure I get this thing linked in there when we're done. And we're also going to be looking at a George Gammon video, which is already linked in the description below. Definitely check that out. Make sure you guys are over there listening to what's going on with Rebel Capitalists and George Gammon. He's going to give you, I think, a fair and balanced take on what's going on. George Gammon does not like central banking. He's all about getting rid of the central bank. But when he breaks these things down, when he talks about these things, bro, like, he makes a lot of sense. But Moody's says the banking system, private credit markets are sound despite worries over bad loans. Moody's is saying this. So hooray. Moody's is saying that the banking sector is sound. Like the credit markets are no problem, nothing to see over here. You guys remember when the housing market bubble crashed, it burst, and we had back in '08. Didn't Moody's say that Lehman Brothers and all the other banks and institutions were A-OK? They were perfect, and they were stamping all of those subprime loans as perfect. Didn't Moody's say that back then? Just saying, bro. Just saying. So now Moody's is saying there's nothing to be worried about. This is why I'm worried. Key points in this article: despite worries over bad loans, mid-sized U.S. banks, there's little evidence of a systemic problem, according to Mark Pinto, Moody's head of global private credit. One cockroach does not a trend make. That's what he said. Market sentiment appeared to improve Friday after a sell-off on Thursday. So I do watch CNBC. I like most of their coverage on stuff. I mean, they're pretty cool. People say that they're definitely slanted, to the left. You know what I mean? Okay, whatever. But they're just talking business, and you can tell which people are trying to, or either MAGA or pro MAGA or pro Trump versus people who are just like, hey man, we're just looking at the numbers in the market versus people who are pro left, anti Trump. But still, I think it's worth checking out CNBC. If you guys ever get a chance to, check out some of their shows, check them out. Closing Bell's a good show. Like Opening Bell's a good show. I think that's what it's called. They got a bunch of different shows on there when they bring people on. It's definitely worth checking out. But they're saying in this article, despite worries over bad loans at mid-sized U.S. banks, there's little evidence of systemic problems, according to the senior analysis at Moody's, right? Senior analyst at Moody's Ratings. And again, Moody's said that everything was fine back in '08. The movie, The Big Short. If you go back and watch the movie, The Big Short, there's scenes in that movie. There's one scene in particular where the bankers went in to talk to the Moody's and were asking about these loans, these predatory loans, and how all these, these financial devices or whatever that were being sold were getting these AAA ratings. And it was a scene where the woman working for Moody's was like, hey, we had to do it. If we didn't do it, they just would have got their rating from down the street. This is, they're like, at the end of the day, we're a business like any other company. We're trying to make our money. If we don't give them the answers that they're looking for, they're simply going to go to our competitors and get them. And that kind of blew my mind. I'm like, damn, I didn't realize it was like that. I just assumed that these raters were like somehow not getting paid on. I just never really thought about it. And like, bro, if you're in a business, of giving these ratings and you don't give the rating that your customer wants, they're going to go to another business. So that made sense to me. It's like, so anyway, I'm not sure if that changed. If there's anyone out here watching this and you can kind of break down how the rating companies work and explain to me why there isn't maybe some sort of, why doesn't the federal government put these ratings out? Like the Bureau of Labor Statistics, why don't they do it? I don't know. Maybe it's a lot of work to do these ratings. I don't know. That's something I'm definitely going to have to look into moving forward. But it's definitely a problem that people are paying for the ratings that they need. It's kind of like when you get your home appraised, right? If you're a legit appraiser, and your appraisals always come in low versus your competitor where his appraisals are always coming in high or where they need to be, they're going to go to the person who's going to give them what they're looking for, right? So, I mean, isn't that a problem? Anyway, you would think that's something we would fix. Mark Pinto, the agency head of global private credit, acknowledged in an interview on NBC Squawk Box. That's a good show. I've watched that before. There are concerns over loose lending standards and some slack in the conditions that institutions attach to loans. Okay. So there is a problem. But he goes on to say, however, he said when he was looking at the system as a whole, contagions like this could trigger a broader financial crisis is not evident. So, yeah, we see a problem, but, it's not a real problem. It doesn't seem to be like a real big problem. It's not a problem. So it's fine. Nothing to see over here going about your business. You know what I'm saying? Oh, look, we just bombed another boat off the coast of Venezuela. Something like that, right? So it's like, don't look over here. That's how I see it. When we dig deeper here to look to see if there's a turn in the credit cycle, which is effectively what the markets seem to be focusing on, we can find no evidence. That's what he said. There's now that what we're seeing today. That could always change. But if we look at the assets quality, the asset quality numbers that we've seen over the last several quarters, we're seeing very little deterioration at all. So dude is acknowledging that there's some issues out there. There's some problems. And I get that. Like, it's just things are doing what they do. All right, there are issues, there are problems. I get that. But he's trying to downplay it. He's trying to downplay it. And then you go and you look at the rest of the article, and it's just them kind of downplaying stuff, and the cockroach thing, we'll get into that later. But bro, it seems to me, again, matter of fact, let me link this. Let me link this article in the description below so you guys can go and read this. It seems to me that the Moody's guy, his job was to come out there and calm the market. Like, okay, I'm just going to come out here and calm the markets because people are seeing something, and he's basically saying we're not seeing the same thing. Bro, I don't know. I don't know if you can trust that source. He's doing two things. He wants to keep his business popping, obviously. Let's keep the business going. That's number one. And number two, he wants to calm the market. He doesn't want the market to crash. My bad. I'm moving around here, guys. I was sitting here wondering what happened to my light. It turned. There we go. He doesn't want the market to crash. And, none of those guys do. No one in the 1% wants the market to crash, right? They don't want that to happen. So it's like, okay, all right, well, he went on to talk about default rates and all that kind of stuff. Here's the thing. The automotive market is having a whole bunch of problems right now, and commercial real estate still has all those loans are going to have to be renewed that are out there, those really low percentage, those really low rates. So you got loans out there that people took when things were going great, and they were like these massive loans for hundreds of millions of dollars for commercial real estate and big buildings and stuff like that. And then interest rates went up, and everyone's anticipating interest rates to come down. Like Jerome Powell and the Fed was like, "No, we're gonna do some quantitative tightening." You know what I mean? And interest rates went up because they wanted to fight inflation. Okay, that makes sense. But big business is like, hey, man, how long are they going to keep these rates up? Because we need these rates to come down so we can service these loans we got coming up, right? Because you borrow $100 million, like that's going to be like, what, 5, maybe a 10-year loan. So if you borrow $100 million at 4%, and then 5 years, 10 years down the road or whatever, however long it is, and it's time to roll that loan over, and you're going to have to roll that loan over at 6, 7, 8%, that's a problem. That might not even be doable. And, the credit, the Fed is still, Jerome Powell is still trying to fight inflation, even though they've dropped the rate a little bit, but still nowhere near what people were hoping for. So that's on the, commercial real estate side. Then you have like people who are buying their own homes. You still have people towards the end of the push to buy homes that were buying adjustables. So they were buying adjustable homes, getting into houses at, 4.5%, 5%, 6%. Now they're looking at 7, 8, 8.5. When it's time to go ahead and lock that rate in, it's time to lock the loan in. Will they be able to afford it? And at the same time, property values are starting to go down in certain places in America. So you have this big thing going on, right? This big thing. All that has to do with credit. All of it. It's all about, okay, what are we going to do with this? What are we going to do about this credit crunch? And it's the regional banks who are left holding the bag, especially when it comes to car loans. So George Gammon was talking about this. And, I'm like, you know what? Let me just jump on real quick to hear about this thing. And I want to hear George Gammon's take on it. And it's not just George Gammon. Like, you go on CNBC, there are a lot of people on CNBC. There are a lot of people on Fox Business. There are a lot of talking heads that are talking about this. This is definitely a problem, no matter who comes out from Moody's or any other rating agency and say, oh, it's not a big problem here. It is a big problem here. There are people, just think about what's going on in America, bro. With Doge and then now the government shut down, there's so many people who aren't getting paid by the federal government. And here in America, the federal government is the largest employer in America. They employ the most Americans. They're not getting paid. And then there's even some question as to where will they get back pay. So think about that, man. So these car loans and home loans and whatever other loans, credit card debt, bro, people might be missing some of these payments. So anyway, let's listen to what George Gammon has to say, man. And you guys should definitely check out Rebel Capitalist and check out George Gammon's, all of his sites on YouTube. I'm a big fan of this guy, and I hope you guys check him out. So anyways, shout out to George Gammon, and let's get into it.
So I wanted to make sure that I did a video today on this topic. If you haven't heard, the regional banks are crashing once again. It's like March of 2023, deja vu. So let's get right into this. Probably a quick video here. I just wanted to give you guys an update because I think this is really important stuff. I mean, I just did a whiteboard video that you should definitely check out on Jeffries and First Brands. And the whole theme of that video is where there's smoke, there's fire. In fact, Jamie Dimon just came out the other day and started talking about this. When you see one cockroach, rest assured, there's a lot more hiding. So when you look at First Brands, oh, that's a one-off, George. Quit fear-mongering. No, it usually isn't. It usually isn't. So let's get into exactly what's happening and then try to ask the question, where does this end? And
Man, that's a real good question. A lot of people want to know when does this end? I was watching Markets with May. I don't know if you guys remember that, about a year and a half ago, maybe longer. She came on this platform. We did an interview. Shout out to her, man. Like, she is really good people. Don DeMarco to Markets with May. She was on last week, I think it was, like maybe 5 days ago, something like that, 6 days ago. I just happened to catch her, and I was just listening to her. And what she does on her channel, she used to work on Wall Street. Like, she was in the banking industry. She did really well for herself. And now she's doing other things. And one of those things she's doing is YouTube. And what she does on her channel is she'll break down the companies that she invests in. She doesn't give advice. She's just basically breaking it down, and it's a great platform to learn the basics, the 101s for investing, and how to vet your company and how to do your research and all that kind of stuff. So I guess she's investing in some sort of bank or lending institution or something. I forget the name of it. So I was just kind of watching her and listening to what she was doing. It was a really good show. And I sent a couple comments in there. One of the comments that I sent her was the following. I said, hey, May, do you think that America is going to go through another round of bank closures over the next 12 to 18 months? And her answer was no. And she said, now she was talking about major banks. I was alluding to regional banks, but I don't think I put regional in my question. I don't know. I have to go back and check. But she was saying no, and she was talking about how a lot of banks kind of got scared with the last round of closures, and what they did was increase their cash reserves. And she's like, they have so much cash on hand, it's ridiculous. So she said if something like that were to occur, they had plenty of cash on hand to basically paper over it and get through it. And I believe her. Again, she knows where the money is hidden. She knows, not even hidden, she just knows where the money is. She knows where to look. She knows how to tell if a company, in this case a bank, is healthy or not, or taking more risks than they need to. So I believe her. But again, I was talking about the regional banks and smaller banks. I think she was referring to the big banks. And they don't call them too big to fail for nothing. But anyway, that was her response. And then I'm looking at this, I'm like, wow. All of a sudden, this scare came out about these regional banks. So next time she's on, I'm gonna ask her about that, just to see where she, where her take is on it, and maybe she's looked at some of these banks. Maybe she'll have a different answer. We'll see.
This the canary in the coal mine, and if you haven't watched that whiteboard video, you definitely should check it out, because that gets into much greater detail than what we're going to go over just on this live stream. So I'm going to switch up the screen share. Josh, of course, is MIA. I don't know if he's on Tinder or might be on Grindr.
Hilarious.
There are no certainties, only probabilities.
It's hilarious.
I'll let you decide which is the highest probability. You let me know in the chat. you think he's on Grindr or do you think he's on Tinder?
He's talking about his assistant. It's a young dude who helps him out. Hilarious.
Enough of the important stuff. Let's just get to this petty regional bank crashing thing. All right. Oh, and that's not it. Here we go. Regional banks. Jeffries shares tank again. Remember, it was down 30% over the last, 3 or 4 weeks, something like that. So crashing once again, even further. But now it's taking the regional banks down as well because Zion Bank. Does that sound familiar? It should, because they had big problems back during 2023. And everyone says, oh, well, no, it's just a one-off. It's just Silicon Valley Bank. It was just First Republic. It was just Signature. Oh, and by the way, Credit Suisse as well. Yeah, I forgot about that one. All these other regional banks, they have a rock solid fortress balance sheet. Maybe not.
Yo, was Zion Bank that East Coast bank that got in trouble? I know we talked about it on this platform because, I looked it up and I was like really shocked. And all the other banks he mentioned, we know how that played out. But these banks have taken on a lot of exposure, bro. A lot of exposure. And I bet you he's going to talk about the auto loan industry. There's so much going on. There's so many people that was getting money when the money was cheap and easy. And I mean, it's just, oh man, it's just crazy. Let's keep going.
Maybe that BTFP thing was just kind of kicking the old can right on down the road. And they were able to paper over all of these problems. But now we're seeing a little more smoke come up. Let's get into the key talking points here. Regional banks stocks tumbled as fears mount around the health of their lending businesses. And well, let's get into it here because you're going to be, on one hand, you're going to be shocked when you read about what's happening with Zion. And then on the other hand, you're going to be like, yeah, I mean, I'm surprised it took this long. Next key talking point, all but one stock in popular regional bank ETF is tracking to end Thursday down. Not just down, I mean, they're down big. So, okay, and we talked about how Jeffries down once again, Zion down 13%, Western Alliance down 10%, the regional bank ETF, KRE, down more than 6%. Looks like they're down even further in after hours. That would be Zion. So here you go. What is going on? This is the dealio. The bankruptcies of 2 auto industry related companies this year raised concerns about loose lending practices. Yes, of course. And if you watch that whiteboard video, it was all about the tide. I was using that as an analogy, hat tip Warren Buffett. When the tide is in and the tide is high, then everyone's partying like it's 1999. Especially with the AI bubble, right? No pun intended. But when everyone's partying like it's 1999 and stocks are going up and then lending standards loosen, and then they loosen to the point where there's just outright fraud. And because people are incentivized to get rich quick, let's go out the risk curve because everybody's doing it. Hey, sure, it's a game of musical chairs, but the music's still playing, baby. And if the music's still playing, you got to dance. No one's taken away the punch bowl yet. But what happens is sooner or later, that tide, which is the economy, starts to go out and boom. Oh my gosh, First Brands, they were swimming naked. But the problem is First Brands, their balance sheet is connected to a lot of other balance sheets that might still be neck deep in water, but they're just as bad. So it's just a matter of time. And then you start to see all the cockroaches start to scurry when the tide goes out further and further and further. That's why I said in the video, this First Brands thing, that could have been the canary in the coal mine. And it seems like the probabilities are increasing. We're not there yet, but probabilities increasing that that's exactly what was going on here. And you're like,
man, when I hear this kind of stuff, man, again, shout out to George Gammon, bro. Like he doesn't like central banks. And I get that, but he ain't lying. Self-made guy, like a legit self-made dude. He's not one of those guys that went like to Harvard or Yale business and all that kind of stuff. He's not tied in to the cool kids, but he is a 1%er. This is one of the dudes that's like, hey, he apparently got it out the mud for real. So he's making, and he doesn't have anything to gain by this. He's just kind of watching the market. And guess what? His number one philosophy when it comes to investing, it was like, yeah, buy when it's cheap, sell when it's expensive. As simple as that. Buy when it's cheap, sell when it's expensive. And for someone like him, he's sitting around. He's like, all right, some opportunities are coming. Some stuff is about to get dirt cheap, and he's going to start buying. Here recently, he's been selling. Like when everything peaked out, he started selling his stuff. And he's like, oh, now I'm going to start buying. Brother Dino is like, GOP always crashed the economy. Okay. I'm not denying that. And I think that what goes on with the GOP is that they like to deregulate stuff. Right? So just imagine you're driving down the street, you're driving in your nice car, brand new cars, fast, everything's secure, everything good. You're driving 100 miles an hour, just unlimited visibility, clear skies, the sun's out, everything's perfect. No wind, nothing. Straight away, just going. But then things start to change, right? So like when the Democrats are in office, they want to put up guardrails and stuff like that. They're like, all right, I know you're out here going to be speeding, so let's mandate that the car has to be safe. And here are the list of safety features that you got to have in this car, and you got to have good tires, and you have to have experienced driver just drive your car because you can only drive so far not being experienced. The Democrats are going to put up all these, guide rails. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna do everything they can to make it to where this is as safe as it could possibly be, but you're still driving hundreds of miles an hour, still kind of dangerous. Republicans come in like, man, you don't need all that. just do it on yourself. Just take care of it on your own. We don't need regulation. We don't need nobody to tell you what to do. You're a grown up, do what you want to do. And then it gets dark or clouds roll in, it starts raining, now it's curvy roads. And Republicans are still like, just go 100 miles an hour, doesn't matter, just go. Like, bro, you got to slow down, right? Some people don't want to slow down. And I think that's the difference between Republicans and the Democrats. Democrats want to regulate everything. Republicans want to remove regulation. Deregulation has always been their thing. And when you get the two extremes, bro, it's gonna be crazy. And yeah, if you take away the safety nets, people are gonna get hurt. But people are also gonna make a lot of money. So, but you look at what MAGA is doing right now. You look at what Trump is doing right now, man. He's absolutely devastating people, devastating the economy. So, I don't think there's anyone going to be able to argue against what you just said, bro. Right, brother? You know what I mean? Brother Dino's right. I don't think there's anything you can do to argue against that. Let's continue.
Likely going to see more and more and more. And that's exactly, by the way, what Jamie Dimon just said. Okay, so latest signs of trouble came when Zion's said Wednesday evening it faced a sizable charge because of bad loans to a couple of borrowers, despite expecting this was isolated instance. They always say that. It's always an isolated instance. Always. I mean, what are they going to say? Yep, we're screwed. Of course not. Remember Lehman? I mean, they were saying Lehman was fantastic all the way up until, I think it was a Friday, wasn't it? And then on Monday, it's like, oh, sorry, we're insolvent, closing the doors, filing for bankruptcy. In fact, even First Brands. Remember, Jeffries was going to do a cash out refi for $6 billion. So that means the valuation of First Brands, like a month ago, was got to be north of $6 billion, probably right around $10 billion. A month ago, you got a company that's worth $10 billion. Today, they're worth goose egg. In fact, they're worth negative goose egg. They're worth negative dollars. Totally insolvent. They can't even pay back their creditors. In fact, they lost $2 billion. And it's not that they ever had it. They just don't know where it went. They don't know if they even had it to begin with. I mean, this is the financial shenanigans that you see when the tide is in. And it makes
right. And back to what I was saying with regulation. It's hard to do those kind of things when you got a bunch of rules that will hinder your ability to do what he just said. It's going to be, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Doesn't mean that the Democrats and the liberals get it right. They don't. They slow down the economy. They bog it down so much to where people don't even want to bother investing. There's no way you can be innovative. There's no way you can get the funding you need to try whatever it is you want to try. So you got to find that happy balance. It's Republicans swing so far one way, the Democrats swing so far the other, and everyone in the middle is getting squeezed. But, you know, the way the Republicans are doing it is no one's going to be held accountable. And again, you say the same thing about the Democrats. Like when, you know, the housing bubble and all that kind of stuff, bro, all that stuff was going on under the noses of the Democrats as well as the Republicans. So, yeah, what are you going to do? But the system is jacked. The system is jacked. And bro, the only people who get hurt in this sort of thing are the folks like you and me. The folks who are not in that top 20, top 15, top 1%. Everyone else is getting crushed. Getting crushed. Right? If you're a median earner in America, if you're just like everybody else, bro, you know how much your grocery bill has gone up over the past couple months. You know how much your utility bills have gone up over the past couple months. And bro, you're screwed. Like, you're absolutely screwed. Meanwhile, the people at the top, yeah, they might lose a couple dollars, but they don't care. They don't care. George Gammon just said, hey, man, this company had $2 billion. They can't even find it. Where's the $2 billion? It's in people's pockets, bro. Trust and believe. There's some people out there who were like officers in that corporation or people involved in that corporation. That's where the $2 billion went. And that's a lot of money.
Sense. It's the way these boom bust cycles work, because when the tide is in, there's cover. No one's going bust. So we might as well take more risk and more risk and more risk and more risk until you get caught with your pants down. It's exactly what's happening here. Western Alliance then alleged Thursday a borrower had committed fraud.
Yeah, you think?
Exactly what I'm talking about. So Zion comes out and says, oh, yeah, by the way, we're going to take a couple sizable charge offs or whatever they call them for bad loans, but don't worry about it. Just a couple borrowers, isolated instance. Oh, look, a squirrel, right? And then Western Alliance, one of their competitors, comes out and says, yeah, I guess since we're all about telling the truth now, I mean, Zion, they went first, so all right, fine. It's true. We had a borrower that actually committed fraud, but it's an isolated instance. This rattled investors, as you would expect. Here's a quote. While we are questioning why all of these credit one-offs are seemingly occurring in a short period of time, I can tell you why. Because that's how these cycles work. That it's the fact that people are questioning this is mind-boggling. Like, you could have seen this coming from a mile away. And oh, by the way, what has the yield curve been telling us? Right? Has the yield curve been inverted for a long period of time before we had a recession? Yes, absolutely. But the yield curve doesn't necessarily mean, hey, there's a recession. It just means that, hey, there's a lot of risk in the system. And you can tell because those banks that are the marginal buyer or seller, they're out there buying along into the curve because they have an option. They have two options with the balance sheet capacity. Either you lend into the real economy and take a higher interest rate, or you go safe and liquid. And then you're going to take that 10-year treasury or whatever it is, and that's going to bring down the rate. It's going to invert the curve. That's what happens. And usually that happens as the Fed is increasing rates at the front end. And so there's a reason. It's not just, oh, the curve's inverted. I wonder why.
Man, there's that part of it. And then they were talking about the fraudulent, you know, the fraud that was committed by some buyers or whatever. Now, I don't know. They must be talking about some people who are really up there. And like, this must be some big money fraud. I don't know about that part, but I do know at the bottom end. And just think about it. How many YouTubers are out there showing folks how to get one car loan and get approved for one loan and wind up getting 3 cars, maybe 4 cars off that one loan, that one approval. So you get an approval, you go get the one, go get your, normally when people want to get a vehicle, they, you know, go to the bank or whatever, get approved for a loan for X amount of dollars. Okay, you're approved for, you know, $50,000 because that's where the average new car is in America today, right now. It's like 50 grand, which is a lot of money. So you take that and you go buy yourself whatever you're trying to buy. Well, these YouTubers are like, no, you take that and then you set up 2 or 3 deals. And instead of just getting the 1 car, you get 3 cars or 4 cars. And then you Turo, or then you rent them out. You do this, you do that. And they were doing that with exotics, right? They were doing that with regular cars, but they were also doing it with exotics. They were doing it, you know, all kind of crazy stuff, right? Just finding you know what I mean, a little gap in the system, taking advantage of it. And the thing is, they're like, oh, don't worry about it. You'll be able to afford it because these cars are going to be out here. You're going to be renting them. You're going to be making so much money. You know, it's going to be great. So people were doing that. So if regular folks were doing it, I'm wondering were there entities doing it at scale? So I mean, it's one thing if you get 3 cars, you know, you can't afford them. And then, all right, you fall behind on payments or whatever, and you have to, you know, surrender the vehicle or they come repossess the vehicles. All right, that's one thing. But what if it's 300 or 3,000 cars? I wonder if that's the kind of fraud that they're talking about. I'm just curious. I'm gonna have to look into it to see exactly what happened, who they're talking about. It might be difficult right now because maybe there's some criminal investigations going on, so they're not going to drop too much information on it. But I can see right where there's going to be some problems, and especially if you just rubber stamping loans, you're going to rubber stamp this loan and that loan, and you know you kind of you don't kind of qualify enough, but here just do this. If that was going on, yeah, there's going to be a problem, and everyone's anticipating the interest rates to come down, and they don't, or they don't come down enough, or they don't come down fast enough. And then you got this thing like in Florida, like no one expected the condo market to collapse, which it did in Florida, which affects the townhouse market, townhomes, which is now affecting single family homes. Like it's like the first domino fell and all these other dominoes are falling, and everything in that industry is tied to insurance. Auto insurance is going up too. So if you're trying to run that play and you got these 3 cars that you can't afford, and they got to insure these cars, and then you based all your numbers on where insurance was when you did this a year ago, 2 years ago, now auto insurance has gone up like crazy. What do you do? What do you do? You default on all those loans, and then the bank is forced to eat that, along with, you know, what's going on in the condo market, and you know you're giving out all these refi loans, and you're giving out all these what's the name of that loan that people use to they just take equity out of their home. It's like having using your home as a credit card. Man, what's the name of that loan? I can't think of it right now. But bro, it's just one of those things, man. I can see how the market got messed up. I can see how the market got messed up. We got HELOC. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. HELOC loans. Yeah. So you got people who are like, the system, America has been living on credit for well over a generation now. No one saves money anymore. Like, everyone's out here just trying to, you know, spend. I'm guilty of it too. But at some point, it's going to catch up to everyone. And who's going to be left holding the bag? It's going to be the banks. The banks are left holding the bag. We got Dust on the building. What's good, Scam Likely? Hey, guys, we're going to have Scam on here. Scam and I had a good conversation. We were talking about the red pill message and then, you know, what's going on with mainstream. And we had a really good conversation. And guess what? I'm going to get him on this platform, guys. It's going to take some doing, but I'm going to get him on this platform and have a good conversation. When Scam is not trolling people, this brother is sharp. His brother is sharp when he's not trolling people, man. But yeah, we're working on that, man. So if you guys know him personally, if you see him out there trolling folks, say, hey, why don't you do DL's show, man? Let's get you on there. We're going to bring him up here, man. But let's continue with the George Gammon.
Oh, must not mean anything. Anyway, boy, how are those regional banks doing? Let's load up on some of those shares. Those things are going to the moon. The yield curve was interest rates is what I'm really trying to say. It was telling you everything you needed to know. Oh, and here they're talking about cockroaches. I didn't even know they did that. Looking for cockroaches. The worries about the health of the banking system or banking industry originated with bankruptcies from First Brands, Tricolors, auto part maker First Brands. Okay, we know what happened there. Shares of Jeffrey, which has exposure to First Brands, fell 10% just on Thursday. The investment bank stock has lost more than 25% in October, making it poised to record its worst month since the Cerveza sickness. Jeffries said hedge funds it runs are owed 715 million from companies tied to First Brands alone. And look, you've got to ask, okay, it's 750 million to First Brands, but that was just one loan you made. If you're making these terrible toxic loans, what else is on your balance sheet that we haven't seen yet, but we will likely see in the very near future? And here's Diamond. Here's the quote. He said, when you see one cockroach, there are probably more. CEO Jamie Dimon said on the company's conference call earlier this week in relation to First Brands.
Yeah, you gotta realize how serious that is, man. You got Jamie Dimon saying shit like that. Wow. This is something you want to keep your eyes on, people. This is what you want to keep your eyes on. And then you guys realize, and I had to look this up about a year ago, a crash is considered when you drop 20%, right? If you drop 20%, I think that, or 20 or 25%, I think they consider that a crash. And no one's using the term crash. Like, bro, y'all jumped, they dropped by that much? Isn't that a crash? But no one wants to say crash. Nothing to see here, people. Everything's fine. I was just one little isolated thing there. Be all right. I'm telling you, bro, there's problems.
And at the time, he probably didn't even know, but he, I'm sure, assumed that the regional banks were going to have a lot of problems. And I think this is just the first of, unfortunately, many situations and many stories like this. And I've usually what happens is these things get a lot worse before they get better. Now, the question is, what does the Fed do? Is the Fed going to step in with a BTFP, something like that? And by the way, can they even, I don't even know if that would be applicable to Jefferies, obviously the regional banks, but something like Jefferies, they're a non-depository lender. So how does the Fed navigate that? Another special purpose vehicle? Who knows? We'll have to wait and find out. An opaque market. Mayo said credit quality and overall industry is still considered favorable. Yeah. Just give it a couple days. However, he said the recent developments show low margin for error when there's hiccups. And low margin for error? What are you talking about? They're just lending to anyone that has a pulse. I don't think that's low margin for error. I think that's just making stupid decisions that are going to come back and bite you in the ass. Again, that's what happens when the tide's in.
You know, and it's funny too. Like I was watching, I think, Breaking Points, and you know, they were talking about what's going on in Venezuela, and I didn't know this, and I'm still doing my little research to see if I can verify that this information is true. You want to vet. Of course, you got to vet everybody these days, even people that you trust. These are trusted sources, and I believe what they're saying is true. But anyway, I've been trying to figure out, why are we going after Venezuela in such an aggressive manner? You know, we all know, anybody who know anything about the streets understands one thing. It ain't no fent coming out of Venezuela, right? All that's coming out of Mexico. It just, I mean, bro, like Venezuela's never really been a big player in that game. Colombia, yeah. Mexico, yeah. You know what I mean? The golden, you know, like you got the Golden Triangle, like the poppy fields in the middle of poppy fields in Southwest Asia, yeah. And Southeast Asia, yeah. But never Venezuela. And it's like, so what are we doing here? And they were reporting on Breaking Points that there were friends of the administration, 1%ers, who invested heavily in Venezuela. Correction. I'm getting myself mixed up here. My bad. I'm a little rusty. I ain't been talking to nobody. I'm thinking about Argentina and Milei. Why is America investing so much money in Argentina, and why is America bailing out Argentina? And I think what's going on here, according to the reports, is there are American friends of the current administration that invested heavily down there in Argentina, and they stand to lose a bunch of money. They made a bad bet. So America, Trump, was like, all right, we're going to go ahead and send some money down there, $20 billion or whatever they're talking about. They're going to stand down there. And Trump is going down there sitting shoulder to shoulder with Milei, who's doing all these things, and his plan just isn't working. And Trump is doing whatever Trump is doing. Because I never understood that. Like, well, why is America investing in this country, in Argentina, and allowing American farmers to get decimated by their competitors? Argentina farmers are direct competitors to American farmers, and American farmers can't sell a soybean, but down in Argentina, man, they getting over. Not only are they selling all this stuff to China, making money hand over fist, but America's going to give them $20 billion to boot on top of that. And what they were saying is the reason that is going down is because there are friends of the administration down there who bet heavily investing in that country, and they are standing to lose a lot. And that's the reason why Trump's doing what Trump is doing, which I thought was just insane. Like, what? And of course, that's why you have all these risks within MAGA right now, especially with the farmers. The farmers aren't happy. And then, of course, going back to Venezuela, why are we attacking Venezuela? Like, what's going on? I still don't know why we are dead set on going to war with Venezuela. I just don't understand that. I guess it'll be revealed over time. But, now there's reporting that Trump has authorized CIA missions on the ground in Venezuela. I think today we just blew up another boat off the coast of Venezuela. One of the boats that we blew up was a Colombian boat with Colombian nationals on board. Who knows who was on this boat? And there, B-52s have been flying around down there as a show of force. And there's talk about ground invasion. Like, I don't understand what's going on. But between those two countries, like, you look at what's going on in South America, like what's going on with Venezuela, what's going on with Argentina, this stuff doesn't make any sense, guys. And $2 billion bailout for that country, and we're looking at our banks here. Like, the regional banks are having some real problems here. The farmers are having real problems here. Like, man, it's crazy. And brother Dino Crescendino was saying that $40 billion was sent to Argentina trying to influence the election for his pal. I thought it was 20 billion, but it might be 40 billion. We're going to talk about that later. We're definitely going to be talking about that because I want to find out why, like, what's going on with that. Anyway, that's going on. America is hurting right now. And I thought MAGA was America first. I thought make America great again, America first. Why isn't the administration doing more to help American farmers get back on track with this tariff war that was started by Trump, right? And China's like, cool, you want to play? We're going to play. So, all this ties into each other, guys, because there are loans out there outstanding for farmers. Farmers got to buy that equipment, man. That equipment is expensive. They got to borrow money so they can get the seed they need, plant the seeds, and then they got to borrow more money so they can harvest all that stuff. And then you do all that. You have a massive harvest and you can't sell a single soybean. Jesus. Man, it's crazy. It is crazy. And hey, man, like, Commander Black Man, overseeing U.S. forces in the Caribbean to retire 1 year into his tenure. There's so much going on right now with the U.S., bro. Like, we're definitely headed. And I'm going to do a show. I want to do a show, bro, when I'm going to put this thing on. And we're going to have a good old fashioned tinfoil hat show. I'm working on that, man. There's a couple people I want to get to join me on that and just talk about conspiracy theories and just what we think may be going on, because there's a lot going on here, bro. There's so much going on here, bro. Let's continue.
Well, the tide is high. They said this private credit market is opaque. Yes, that's the whole thing banks are doing, because the banks, they can't lend to a First Brands. In my whiteboard video, I called it Garbage Corporation with a triple F rating. They can't lend to that company. So what they do is they just lend to Jeffries, and then Jeffries lends to Garbage Corporation, as if that's any better.
Wow.
So then they go over all these share prices that tanked. It's like, here you go. Apollo, Carlyle, Blackstone, they all fell 6%, 3%, 5%, 4%. So they can't access the BTFP if the Fed sets that up again. So I'm not saying the Fed isn't going to bail them out. I'm sure they will if it comes to that. But I don't know if they're really going to have to pull something out of the hat that is completely against the Federal Reserve Act. But people just ignored the Federal Reserve Act back in the Cerveza sickness. So why won't they do it again? So that's what's going on, guys. Wanted to give you just an update there, because this is something extremely important, very, very important. And if you want more kind of details as to what's going on with private credit and the whole shadow banking system, because that's what we're talking about here, I would strongly suggest checking out that whiteboard video that I did last night on the George Gammon channel. And for those of you who are wondering, what on earth do I do with my portfolio? I mean, we're in all of these financial bubbles, whether it's the AI bubble, the private credit bubble, the housing bubble, the this bubble, the that bubble. There's all these. What the heck do I do? Well, I've got good news for you. I'm doing a webinar October 29th, and I'm going to walk you through the contrast during these times of financial bubbles. And, spoiler alert, it isn't doing the whole buy and hold thing. It isn't buying the dip. It isn't just taking 10% of your paycheck and investing it into a passive S&P index fund. That is the opposite of what you want to do. All of that and taking you through step. So what or someone who's experienced, this is absolutely perfect for you. It's free to register. Josh will put a link right there, put a link in the bonus just for attending. How awesome is that? $500 coupon code that takes the price of a ticket for Rebel Capitals Live 2026 all the way down to $99. You can't beat it. This webinar is going to be absolutely incredible. So check out the link, register for free, and I will see you October 29th. On that bombshell, enjoy the rest of your evening. As always, make sure you're standing up for freedom, liberty, free market capitalism, where we actually let entities go bust that make bad decisions. I'll see you in the next video.
Man, shout out to George Gammon, bro. Shout out to him. I'm definitely going to check out that Rebel Capital. They've been doing that event in Orlando. I'm going to look into it. I'm definitely going to check that out. If he's going to give you $500 off, you can get in there for $100. I'm definitely going to check that out. And more to the point, I'm going to see if I can't score some interviews with him. Because I understand when people say no to me when they want to do an interview on I Really Want to Know platform. I get it. Like we're small, we're nothing over here. We're just doing what we do. We're important to us, but on a grand scale of things, bro. I mean, we're nothing. I mean, we're something in the fact that we're monetized. Great, we're monetized because like less than 5%, somewhere around 5% of our YouTube channels are actually monetized, something like that. So that's a huge accomplishment, but on the grand scale, we're not there yet. But I'm working with celebrities and I'm working with folks, authors and stuff like that on some other platforms that it would make sense to interview with those on those platforms with those people. So this is why I like being a producer. It's why I like being the executive producer. It gives you a lot of room to do a lot of things. You could talk to folks. But I'm definitely going to go to that Rebel Capitalist event in 2026. I'm absolutely going to do that. It will be silly for me not to. But who knows where the country will be by that time? We're in it. There's nothing else to say. We are in it right now. Financially, it's crazy. Like what he was talking about was outstanding. I suggest you guys go out and read what you can, watch what you can, go get as much information as possible. Let me know what you find when it comes to, the economy right now, what's going on. Bro, the government is still shut down. The federal government is still shut down. And it doesn't look like it's going to open anytime soon, bro. The last one, I think the last shutdown was around 30, 35 days. This shutdown might go further than that. And I did a little bit of research and I got a history of government shutdowns going back to, I think it was the 80s. We'll probably do a show on that when I just break it down so we can see who was in power, who was in the White House, who was in the Senate, who was in the House of Representatives when these shutdowns occurred and why. I think that'll be a pretty good show. We're going to do that. We're going to do that soon. Guys, you guys are going to see me popping up random times, just doing random shows. Definitely want to do a bunch of the red pill stuff, man. I'm seeing a lot of people talk about the red pill stuff. So the next show we're going to do is probably going to be later on tonight or maybe even tomorrow. I want to do some shows, talking about everyone in the media talking about red pill. You got folks coming out here and how I think this is going to go down. We're going to talk about that moving on, but definitely keep your eyes on what's going on with the U.S. dollar, with the U.S. economy, with tariffs, because it affects the entire world. Right? America gets the sniffles, the rest of the world catches flu, and then, you look at what's going on. Yeah, peace in the Middle East. Good job. That was great. I tell people I'll give credit where credit is due. Hey, Trump did that. Okay. You got to take it at face value. Great. What's going on in Ukraine? Looks like it's going to be a little bit of escalation there. And then what's going on in Venezuela? Why are we doing this? Like, we're blowing up people from another country, man, in their boats. Like, could you imagine? Could you imagine if some nation came over here and blew up some boats off the coast of Florida or California or Maine? Could you imagine America's response to that? What's going on? I don't. You got to pay attention to this, guys. And I think financially, I mean, it is what it is. It's going to be tough out here to find certain types of jobs. The wealth gap is going to continue to increase. That's going to happen. I don't see that changing anytime soon. And I think we're headed for a round of quantitative easing. I think they're done with the quantitative tightening. I think they should continue. I think interest rates should go up. That's what I think. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think we're going to see another round of QE. I think they're going to lower the rates, but I don't think it's going to be any drastic rate drops. But I think the rates are going to continue to go down. And this is, dude, I don't even know that word. This is just me trying to piece it together and just trying to think it through. And I think we're going to get into, you're going to start hearing statements like, we need to stimulate the economy. They're going to bail out or paper over a lot of these regional banks, but they're not going to call it a bailout. I think they're going to use people instead of just giving them the money directly from the government. I think they're going to bring in companies and give the money to the company, but it's going to be a bailout just by another name. I think bailouts are coming. I think the regional banking system is in trouble. I believe that. I think they're in trouble. I don't think that they can hide the damage any longer. The cracks are starting to get larger. The water is starting to seep through. People are seeing it. And whenever the money moves away from a company like it did with the regional banks there, just like that fast, dropping the way it dropped, bro, there's a problem there. It's a problem there. Cody's in the building. Cody is in the building, man. What's good, fam? I wish I could agree with you. I wish I could say it's fake. It's not fake, bro. Like, especially down here in Florida, like there's some problems down here that has a lot to do with a whole bunch of other stuff. It's not fake. It's not fake, bro. I think we're just dealing with we're dealing with some stuff, man. Ups and downs, bro. Ups and downs. We're dealing with some stuff. And, a lot of people are going to get hurt. A lot of Americans are going to continue to suffer. Like it's starting to happen. And the last thing I'll say about this government shutdown today, because I'm sure we'll be talking about it moving forward. Another 2 weeks. I think it's the 28th, I think, is the next pay period. And that'll be the first pay period where I'm talking about the air traffic controllers. They won't get any money at all. And I believe that between now and then, especially after the 20th, I think it's the 28th. Let me check the date real quick. Let me check the dates when that pay period hits. So, yeah, I think it's the 28th. I think Tuesday, October 28th, will be the first full pay period with no money at all. And I think the air traffic controllers stop coming to work that week. And we're talking maybe 10%, 15% of the controllers will stop coming to work in certain places. I think it's gonna hit hardest, and you're gonna see it's gonna be more visible in the high cost of living areas, California, New York, like the DC area, maybe Atlanta. I could throw Atlanta in there. They're gonna stop coming to work, and the reason they're not gonna come to work is simple: they can't afford to get there. It's just that commute. You're looking at maybe 45 minutes to an hour one way. Some people commute as much as an hour and a half one way in California. They're not going to have the gas money to get to work. No one's going to want to use their credit cards. They're probably already in quite a bit of debt. They're not going to want to run their credit up because there's no money coming. And then you hear the rhetoric coming from the White House saying, hey, we might not even pay everyone back pay when this is over. So I think around the 28th, if they don't resolve this thing by the 28th, that's when the national airspace system begins to really restrict its ability to operate. And they're going to slow everything down, which means flights are going to be delayed. Flights are going to get canceled. There's going to be days where you're not going to be able to get out of certain airports. Like, not going to be able to get you out of here. Because not only will the tower controllers not come to work, but the radar controllers, like in the TRACON and the radar controllers in the center, they're not going to come to work. So we'll definitely do a show on that. This is, it's crazy, man. I mean, it's crazy. Brother Cody's like, what we have to deal with isn't fake, but as far as the monetary system is definitely controlled and fake. I agree with you there, bro. It's like the dollar has no wealth. I mean, dude, who knows? We might be papering this wall with $100 bills this time next year. If the dollar completely loses its value and the rest of the world just gives up on it, which, I mean, I'll be shocked if that happened. But it happened in Germany. It's happened in countries all over the world, bro. Like, you can just wallpaper your whole wall with $100 bills because the paper is worthless. And, I think that's the point that Cody is making. I agree 100%, bro. I agree 100%. And most people can barely afford to transport themselves to work and pay the baseline expenses to do so. Facts. A lot of people cannot survive a month without pay. Bro, that's a Don DeMarco. Facts.
Don DeMarco.
And a lot of people are saying that, oh man, this is what are they telling me? They're saying, oh, this is political. I was on an NPR, a National Public Radio show, 89.3 KPCC. Shout out to my man Austin Cross. He was filling in for Larry Mantle. The name of the show was it Air Talk? Or was it, I can't remember the name of the show, but anyway, Austin was filling in for Larry Mantle. He asked me to jump on the show because they wanted to talk about the air traffic controllers not coming to work at Burbank Airport. And this is what I was telling them. I'm going to do a show about that when we're going to actually play the radio interview. So, we could just talk about it here. But that is what Cody just said right there. Like, these people aren't making political statements, man. They simply can't afford it. Americans live paycheck to paycheck, whether they're making $50,000 a year or $200,000 a year. Look it up. You'll be shocked to see how many people making $100,000 a year or more live paycheck to paycheck. And those people can't go a month. I know there are a couple of folks who are like really good with their money and they plan for a rainy day. I know I was talking to a buddy of mine who's out there and he was like, yeah, I'm good for 6 months. He said, I'm good for, I think he said 6 months. But after that, something's going to have to give. So he'll probably make it through this, maybe. But he was making so much money. We're going to get into it. We're going to do a show where we're going to go and we're going to talk about this, bro. We're going to talk about the effects of the government shutdown, this type of a shutdown. We're going to talk about the downstream effects. There's going to be a lot of air traffic controllers who resign. I know personally air traffic controllers who've quit during this shutdown. They're like, you know what, I'm done. They just quit. No one's talking about that. So we're gonna talk about that probably during this weekend. I'm telling you guys, I'm gonna go crazy doing videos. I'm gonna be jumping on all kind of crazy hours, all kind of times of the day and night, just talking about stuff. I want to catch up and I want to clear out all of the stories that I've kind of marked that I want to talk about. So we're gonna cover all of them. I appreciate you guys, man. This is crazy. But hey, when the going gets rough, the tough get going, guys. And that's just, what is it? When the going gets tough, the tough get going. You know what I'm saying? So that's an old school phrase. And, I'm airborne, so we don't like to quit, bro. It's just quit ain't in us, bro. We hate losing. So I welcome this challenge. I've been dealing with bullshit for a long time. We're going on almost over 8 years now, dealing with the courts, dealing with crazy, females, dealing with, radical judges. And I'm still here. You know what I mean? The only thing that almost got me was the high blood pressure. So make sure you're checking your high blood pressure. And, we're going to keep it moving. The situation is actually even worse for many people going into debt to pay normal bills. Yep. Like chasing the carrot, they just can't get further away. You're right about that, man. They chasing the carrot that just gets further away. Absolutely. You're speaking facts. You're speaking facts, man. And let me close with this. And we're going to continue to talk about the debt trap, the credit trap, and people trying to survive and making these decisions. But think about this. Let's say that you are an individual who has perfect credit, got an 850 credit score, perfect credit. And let's say you're making about $80,000 a year. Okay, cool. Not a whole lot of money, but you've managed your money properly. You pay all your stuff. You're doing great. You got a couple credit cards. You keep your balances perfect. You know what I mean? Like your debt to balance ratio perfect. Well, the banks are going through problems. So you got this person who's out here just living their life. And they're like, you know what? My AC unit just went out. We live in Florida. Oh man, I got to get that. You can't live in Florida without an AC, bro. Like, I mean, that's my guy. I remember growing up back in the 70s when we would be places in houses and stuff that didn't have AC, bro. Oh my God, life sucks. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna get my AC. What's the AC unit cost down here? Probably around $4,000 or $5,000. So that person like, all right, cool. I got a little money in savings. I'm pretty good on my credit. I'm just going to take this credit card and I'm going to get this system installed. I want to do it on my credit card because if there are any problems with the company that I use to install this, my credit card company will go after them. Plus I get the points. It just makes sense. And those people who are responsible, they know what they're doing. It's great. So they go ahead and they spend $5,000 to get the AC unit. Right. So, and then again, these are people who don't really keep a lot of balances on their credit cards, whatever. But one day they're going to wake up. Right here soon, probably within the next 6 months, they're going to wake up and they're going to see that all of their credit has been cut in half. Cut in half. You're going to go from maybe $20,000 line on your credit card to like $10,000 or $8,000 line. And what does that do? That messes up your debt to ratio. It messes everything up, and that hurts your credit score. And it's going to make it harder for you to get other kind of loans or do other kind of things. And now he's like, oh, what do I do? Do I take my savings and pay everything off, or what do I do? So, and the people who are really good with money, they normally they get a little knee scrape on that. You know what I mean? They'll take a little bit of it hits them a little bit, but they're able to recover from that. But the rest of society, the overwhelming majority of society, they're doing what Cody was saying. They're using their credit cards to pay for everyday essentials. Right? They're paying their utility bills. They're paying for their groceries. They're paying their car notes. They're doing all this kind of stuff. They're running 80, 90% of their credit. And then all of a sudden the bank comes in and cuts it down in half, which means now you're over your limits and you're getting hit with all kind of fees and stuff like that. And you don't have any reserve cash to kind of pay all that off. That's the trap. That's the trap, bro. That is the trap. Right. And Cody is right. I'm like, boom, you're trying to get a transmission or timing belt, your car breaks, $3,000 to $4,000, facts. And that will happen. How much you got left for rent? Can't pay that. Right. How you going to get to work? How much will it cost to find alternate transportation? Facts. And how long will you need to do that? Yeah. How long will you need to get all that done? Absolutely, man. The scariest thing in my life right now is that them lights inside the car, bro. When those yellow and God forbid the red lights come on, now you got to go get your car fixed. Transmission and stuff like that's the heavy lift. But bro, a radiator. If you have a modern SUV and your radiator go out, bro, you could be looking at $800 worth of parts and labor to get your radiator fixed. Right, depending on what kind of car you drive. Like, yeah, I drive high end cars, but even for like a regular vehicle, you're probably looking at that. Maybe you're not paying $800, but you're probably paying $500 or $600. And the average American don't have the money to cover an unexpected expense of $500. They don't have that money. And remember, the bank just cut all of your credit in half. All the money you were banking on was credit. Now credit is gone. And that's the first thing the banks are going to do. The banks are in trouble. They're going to begin to tighten their belt. And they did it before. It happened during the housing crash in 2008. So, bro, it is crazy. And most people do live check to check, man. I mean, people don't have the financial literacy, man. You're not taught that in school. You're not. I talk to my daughter about it all the time. I'm not the best when it comes to money, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I'm not. My cousin is far better than I am. He is really good at it. I am not that good at it. So I teach my daughter to do what our cousin is doing. Like, this is how you want to live. This is how you want to take care of stuff. I tell my daughter, like, this is what credit is. Be careful of credit. it blew her mind when I, was trying to break down percentages. You tell a kid, you tell anybody, oh, it's going to be 25% interest. They're like, whatever. How much is my payment? Your payment is this much. Okay. But when you break it down and you tell I told my daughter, like, you got to pay 25% interest is 25 cents on every, you have to pay a quarter for every dollar that you borrow. And you put the money down in front of her so she can see it. For every dollar you borrow, you have to pay them back 25 cents. You got to pay them that dollar plus 25 cents. And they're like, what? She looks at it. What? Like, yeah, that's why you got to understand what interest rates are. And she doesn't want anything to do with credit. She's like, well, I'm not going to pay somebody because they gave me money. So, and this is stuff that people don't understand, man. They just hear interest rate. They're like, whatever. What's my monthly payment going to be? Compound interest is worse. Compound interest is great if you can, for you saving money. It's another thing I'm doing with my daughter, man. I'm teaching her this is how you invest now. If I do it right, by the time my daughter hits 18, her portfolio will be pretty decent. So by the time she's 38, she'll be, it'll be a couple $1 million there. Compound interest. Compound interest. That's what we're working on. Brother Dino was saying ACA enrollment 1 November, Thanksgiving and Christmas. The GOP are finished early this year. Hey, bro, it's so many things going on right now, man. Like I said, we're gonna have to revisit this. We're gonna have to talk about this more. Right? I mean, we're definitely gonna talk about this over the next couple of days. We're gonna talk more finance. I think within the next few weeks, bro, we're gonna see which banks are really in trouble, and we're gonna start to see the run on some of these banks, some of these institutions, and they're gonna need some help. So we're definitely gonna be talking about this, man. Shout out to George Gammon. Shout out to y'all, man. Brother Cody. We got Scam. We got brother Dino. Appreciate y'all, man. Don was in here. He helped me out when I couldn't think of HELOCs. Appreciate you, fam. And yeah, man, y'all know what it is. Like, share, subscribe. I ain't got to tell y'all that because y'all always with me, man. I really appreciate y'all, bro. Just being there with me day one. And then for you new people out here who are watching, man, if you like what you're seeing, please, like, share, and subscribe. I can really use the help. Y'all notice I don't ask for money, and I'm not going to ask for money because times are tough, bro. I'm not going to ask for money. But if you want to donate, if you want to send some cash, man, I'll welcome it. I'm not going to say no to it. But I understand. Like, what I'm doing right now is just, this is a labor of love, man. I just like doing this. I like having these conversations. I like watching the algorithm, and I'm trying to figure out why the algorithm doesn't like my content, especially when I compare it to all this other content out here. I'm like, bro, I'm right there. Like I said, I've seen people take my content, put it on their channel, and get more views than me. It's like, what's going on, bro? So anyway, that's it. That's all I got, man. Appreciate y'all. I'll be back soon. And I appreciate the well wishes. I am doing better. About to go check my blood pressure right now. As a matter of fact, I've already taken my meds for the day, and I'm going to continue to work on my diet and all that good stuff. And I suggest you guys do the same. I'm DL Saint. This is that I Really Want to Know podcast, man. I'm going to holler at y'all soon. Peace.
Nothing like I've ever seen. It's just a thing of beauty.
Darn, that's the end.